Let's test the polls here. It's 11 o'clock. Um, my name is Trent Zimmermann, and this is your 20-minute Annuity Tuesdays. Uh, I am the Director of Annuities here at BGA Insurance. BGA Insurance is a wholesaler for life insurance, long-term care, annuities, and disability, working with independent agents, financial advisors, who are insurance licensed. And myself, I have a background with a bachelor's in economics, a master's in finance. I'm a chartered financial consultant and chartered life underwriter. And we're going to start off before we dive into longevity insurance with a test of my polls that I'm going to be running today, um, and see how this works. And we'll keep it topical with World Cup. Who has played in 6 World Cups but never made a goal or assist in the knockout round? There's two right answers to this one. One should be easy to find if you know the players. All right. The answer is Ronaldo and Ochoa. Ochoa is the Mexican goalkeeper. You all know who Cristiano Ronaldo is. Messi has scored in the knockout rounds before, and Zlatan was not in 6 World Cups. So I'll share the results there. And great, this is working. So we're going to dive right in to longevity insurance. And this can be looked at in two different ways. Uh, Insurance that can increase longevity and insurance that protects you from longevity. We're going to be going on both sides of the coin. Why? Because America is obsessed with living longer. The global wellness economy has reached $6.3 trillion dollars and is projected to reach 9 trillion in 2030. That's not pharmaceuticals, that's not medical expenses. Those are your wearables like Whoop, your light therapies, your recovery technology, your saunas, your cold plunges, and lots of supplements, and a growing piece of peptides. Now, we can say that's because the younger generation is health conscious. People have talked about that being a new source of community, but a large piece of where this is being coming from is peak 65. And that's a historic demographic milestone making a period marking the period between 2024 through 2026 when a majority of the population will be turning 65. So let's start another poll for you and see what's the year that people 65 and over will outnumber children under 18. Go ahead and throw your answer. The options are 2027, 2034, 2050, or never. All right. And the poll and share the results. We're looking at 2034 with being the winner. And what's the answer? 2020, 2034. We have this large wave of people going into standard retirement years where they're looking at how can they extend their life and how can they live better. Insurers have taken notice. 2015, John Hancock launched Vitality as an add-on to their protection IUL, incentivizing activities that help you live longer, healthier, happier. And now we're seeing that spread out through the life insurance industry of healthy living credits. There's insurance companies that are looking to build their own version of Vitality, but none yet, because the results are staggering. 80% of clients have maintained or improved their health outcomes. 52% with high blood pressure have brought their readings into range. 45 have had BMI reductions. 63% with high cholesterol have brought theirs into range. And on average, clients have doubled their daily steps. Those are huge changes in your health outcomes that have led to a 30% lower mortality rate for Vitality policyholders than other life insurance clients. Reinsurers are responding. Improving mortality data means materially lower pricing for health engaged blocks. The paradox, I would love something like this on the annuity side. I think it's a great conversation. These products tend to sell themselves, because once you have a client who's using it and actively engaging on a daily basis, they're talking to their friends about it. And when they need more insurance, they are more incentivized to buy with the carrier they're already with. And you have a lot higher rate of groundswell referrals from word of mouth that's not being purchased, not being bought through ad dollars. It's just clients talking about what they have. And I can talk from a personal level. None of my friends want to talk to me about insurance. When I'm at a party and say what I do, they don't want to follow up. And unless I can change the subject to the World Cup, I'm going to be sitting by myself the rest of the party. When we're talking about, why I got a discount on a hotel or why I have the Apple Watch or whatever it might be, and it leads into insurance, I've actually had conversions there. And I'm not in the active selling role. I'm in the wholesaling role, working with advisors like you. But the paradox is, and that's why I would love it in annuities, but insurers lose when you live longer with annuities. But annuities might not actually need a Vitality-like program. There's some recent research, and this has been a known phenomenon, that people with annuities live longer. And a lot of the pushback has been saying, yeah, but those are people who are worried about longevity because they might have it running in their family who are selecting to buy something that insures against longevity. But we're actually seeing that when you strip out everything of bias of purchasing the product, people who are more longevity minded buying the product, people who might have higher credit ratings and have access to financial advisors buying the product, and therefore those groups tend to live longer. You strip out all that, and you get a 3.6 reduction in all-cause mortality. A 65-year-old male in the US who purchases a life annuity can expect to live 20% longer than a 65-year-old male who doesn't. They also consider themselves very satisfied at a higher rate. They have less uh, reports of depression. They have a less likelihood of putting off medical procedures and tests, and they have an increased travel and leisure spending. People who have annuities are not only living longer, they are living better. They're traveling more, they're enjoying their life more, they have higher health outcomes, and they are less prone to depression. Which leads us to, um, let's run this poll if I can. Stop sharing that poll. Sorry. Still getting used to this. We're looking at the effective rate. Which of these habits at 65 have equal effect in longevity as adding an annuity? Adding 15 minutes of moderate exercise to your daily routine, quitting smoking, sleeping on average 7 to 9 hours a night, or maintaining a healthy body weight. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words a little bit more today than I am normally. Well, we have 12 respondents. Let me share the results here. And I've got great news for you all. You're all right. The equivalent effects of owning an annuity is the same as exercise, sleep, maintaining a healthy body weight, and quitting smoking. And we also know the financial effect. We've talked about this almost every single week. That there is a number that in your portfolio that if you annuitize it, you will not outlive your money. Your core expenses will be covered. The chance in a Monte Carlo analysis of complete portfolio depletion is less than 1%. In 75% of historical backtests, you'll have a greater terminal portfolio size, and your core concerns are eliminated. Let's look at somebody other than me and what they have to say, and say Morgan Stanley, a 10-year study. They see that people have a 19% higher probability of sustaining income over 30 years. And let's launch another poll. At minimum, having an annuity in your portfolio increase your terminal portfolio. This is the minimum, the lowest quartile of respondents. So an increase in their portfolio of how much? You should know this if you've been on these before. And I see a lot of the right answer right now. All right, let's end the poll and share the results. 10%. I like the person answering 100%. We did see a doubling in the terminal portfolio size on the upper ends of the quartiles. Um, but 10% higher terminal wealth. So if you could say, I have something that can improve your longevity, improve your enjoyment of your retirement, and increase your wealth when you die, and increase the chance of you maintaining your income over the next 30 years, would you buy it? And the financial research backs all this up. It's not just one study. We have Nobel laureates saying bubbles are only obvious after the fact. Market timing is impossible. We have a disproportionate sense of loss that leads us to sell low and buy high. And uh, because of that, actually, sorry, let me continue on with Harry Markowitz, the creator of modern portfolio theory, saying it was never designed for individuals, only large institutions, which leads to we don't promise this. We do not say that annuities will outperform the S&P 500 or the market as a whole, but it can often outperform retail investors because they're not having that loss aversion. And buying income allows for taking on more risk and staying invested longer. Ensuring longevity is not only financially prudent, but leads to more longevity. And we get rid of the sequence of return risk. Now, the example I've used previously is exercise. You want to get in shape, you want to build muscle. And so you're just going to lift all the weights possibly until you can't move anymore. Well, that's going to create some degradation in your muscle, especially if you're just doing it nonstop. So now you got to eat, and you have to eat a lot of protein. You can't just eat food in general, or else you're going to gain a lot of fat. And even with adding a lot of protein, you're probably going to add some fat. So now we got to do some cardio and help your heart and lose some body fat there. So now you can feel like you're in shape and can do the things that you want to do. But now you need to recover. You need to rest. And so this idea of just controlling for growth in retirement doesn't actually play out. When all we're looking at is growth, that's like only lifting weights to build muscle and not eating, not doing cardio, not sleeping, and not having enough protein or fiber. All those things go into building muscle. Just like buying income allows you to have more growth and allows you to have a more sustainable retirement. And when people put their money where their mouth is, Ken Fisher, who says, I hate annuities. And if you look up annuities once, you're going to be inundated on every piece of social media saying annuities are the work of the devil. He holds stake in annuity companies and he himself owns annuities. Warren Buffett, billionaire, doesn't need to buy income, understands the point of annuities, and has two rules. It's insane to risk what you have for something you don't need, and now's the right time to pull the cream off the top. Take some gain, put it away so you can't lose it, buy some income with it. BlackRock, the largest institutional investing company in the US, talks about how annuities are the future of retirement because they get rid of FOMO, get rid of loss aversion, get rid of action bias, and leave more money invested for longer. You guarantee a floor is going to lead to better returns, but that also means more surplus. You're going to have more money at the end of the day. And more money that's going to be in assets under management, which some of you control. And now if we're looking at the phases of retirement, the go-go, the slow-go, the no-go, you know this, the go-go is the most active, most expensive phase traditionally. Slow-go, health and energy begin to moderate and you're going to be spending less, and then spending increases in the no-go in the late retirement years with health expenditures. And we look at the senior smile and getting that income of 100,000 will cover you the whole way through because your spending will dip and then your medical expenses will increase in inflation. With this generation of people concerned with longevity, especially those actively participating in longevity, the slow-go years are disappearing. And that changes with some things we looked at before of buying income, of buying that low band of 75,000 and having asset under management manage the rest. That this $100,000 in this hypothetical situation is becoming more and more important. So if we're going to buy income, we have to define the income floor, and we might be adding some more pieces into this than we normally would have to get that lower level 75,000 of just saying what's the bare minimum survival. We might be flushing this out a little bit more to get that high watermark. Buy the income. You can do this with a SPIA or DIA. You can do it with a fixed index annuity. There's benefits to each that we'll cover in a little bit, and we can also talk about on a later date. Um, and then invest the rest. And this is now truly risk money because losing it does not have an effect as much on your retirement. So typical allocations for the rest, when you have bought a sufficient amount of income, especially the high watermark of income, is higher equity exposure. 70 to 100% is rational because there's no need to protect it because you have your essential income. Can include real estate, REITs, international equities, growth focused. And then we get to variations on this strategy. And actually, before we do that, I'm going to run one more poll. This is the last one, I promise. And I forgot to end the other one, didn't I? I'm sorry, I'll get better at this. How much does deferring Social Security from 62 to 70 increase your benefits? 11%, 22%, 55%, 77%. Ooh, we're a little spread out. We got a lot of people sitting in 55. 77%. Delaying from 62 to 70 increases your benefits by 77%. So there's variations on this strategy that maybe we just buy a period certain annuity to delay retirement or Social Security collection from 62 to 70. And maybe we're still buying that FIA, that SPIA at 65 when they traditionally retire, but we're getting something in place to replace the Social Security as well in that time so you can get a higher floor there. And because the slow go years are disappearing, there might be maintained high spending from go go slow go until you finally hit the no go. And so annuity laddering and buying income in stages might become more beneficial for your clients, or buying an annuity that has increasing income. And now I want to say something. I never show increasing income when you ask me for an illustration. Why? Because no companies can actually fulfill on their promises. All the increasing income stop when the cash value ends. There's only one company that still has indexed uh, returns on their increasing income after the cash value ends, and that's Allianz. But it's a tough contract to get. You have to meet certain requirements, and if you ever want to look at that, we can't. But annuity laddering is a very effective way of doing that. Can also offset RMDs that we talked about previously. And a QLAC becomes more and more favorable here. I know I don't love them. I think they're extremely restricted, but in the right play here, it can be pretty good. But now, if we have people who are going to be at high spending through the slow go, we're doing some laddering, we're doing the Social Security bridge, we're adding a QLAC. Especially once we get to the QLAC stage, we're looking at longevity insurance, just putting some money aside in case you ever need it. Now, we can do this with just MYGAs that are sitting there that are never losing money. And there's a strategy we're actually going to talk about in a later week of people taking that money and let's say you're 85 and you don't need it anymore. What can you convert it into? And there's some policies I think that go down to 80 that they can buy some essentially final expense insurance. It's a lot higher death benefit. And these are good ways to say, here's some money on the side that I may or may not touch. But that also means, looking at, do I get a QLAC that's going to be stagnant, certain? I have to decide early on when I want to take that money out, or do I want something flexible and maybe have an income doubler to hedge against that? And do we want to put that money in at 65 in something like an FIA with an income doubler because those roll-ups won't be guaranteed? It's a great time to be talking about long-term care insurance. The longer you live, the more at risk you are of long-term care events, especially ones of the mind that you can't as much protect against. So when we're looking at building a plan for somebody who's invested in longevity, we're looking at something that includes period certain annuities, buying some basic income, increasing that income over time, hedging against longevity. And here's some examples. This hatchet strategy for that Social Security of buying a small part of income, letting the Social Security roll up, and then getting at a later date. And here's what according to Dr. Fau, what income needs are starting to look more like with people who are invested in longevity. And that lends credence to this style that the data backs up actually works. Buying income. This is the people with the best results in retirement bought income. They had inflationary hedges. MYGAs work great here. Of time segmentation and periodic de-risking. So every 5 years, you're buying a new wave of MYGAs. And every 10 years, you're putting that protected money into a new SPIA. And a risk wrapper, cash accumulation IUL, is what he actually said it in the research did best. Of course, there's some cash value whole life could work there as well. And then total return in the classic portfolio. Why do you need all this? We talked about the benefits of buying income. You want the time segmentation, so you're taking out even more of the sequence return risk. But yet that risk wrapper, so it's a down year, an emergency happens, you're not going to pull extra money out of the FIA. You're not going to be able to pull it out of the SPIA. You don't want to touch your time segmentation because you're prepping for the next step. And you don't want to pull out in a down year. So why not pull it out of something like a cash accumulation IUL that you're not going to be paying interest on, or you could be actually making an arbitrage on? So you end up having this portfolio freedom effect with higher equity allocation, no forced selling in down years, slows down the AUM depletion rate, and increases behavioral alpha of not fighting against people panic selling. And you get out of this bond market that is moving with stocks right now. And if you have to sell in a down year, you could be selling 50% down. Now you still want to be in this for long and get the gain out of reaching fulfillment, but you don't want to be in this short term. And it places you more in the most consistently increasing asset available to us. That is stocks. That over the long haul, it's most consistently up. In the short run, it's the most volatile. So we want to be in it for a long run. So what are we benefiting from all this? From having a plan that includes buying income, time segmentation, cash accumulation IUL, hopefully ones that encourage longevity that we talked about, and having a traditional portfolio, we are increasing someone's longevity and livability, protecting them from their number one retirement risk of a long-term care event, solving for their number one retirement fear, outliving money, eliminating the sequence of return risk, giving them permission to spend and enjoy their life, simplify their assets management, and increase their terminal portfolio size. Who else can promise all this other than you all? And being able to say we have access to the tools available. Your takeaways from today: if you're selling protection permanent life, you can meet your clients where they're at. If they're engaged in longevity, you can sell them longevity. If your clients care about longevity, planning looks different. Annuities are a must. And with longer retirement comes a higher need for annual reviews. This is our best advisors do this. Annual reviews. They need to be in regular practice, and needs to be a demand on your clients, not something you just occasionally do when you remember. And this is regular monitoring for that income laddering. When do we need to turn it on? When do we need to get the SPIAs to offset RMDs? When do we need to take money out that is gain and put that into something safe that is going to continue to grow so you can never lose it, so it can be ready for the next step? And when are we deploying the longevity insurance to maximize guaranteed roll-up or to set it in a QLAC like we talked about before? All these things are mandatory, especially when somebody is looking at longevity. So we covered a lot. Here's my information. We're going to talk a little bit about next few weeks. If you want to sign off, I'm 4 minutes over. And thank you for joining us. But we're going to start talking about relationship between annuities and life insurance. I know a lot of people who have worked with BGA are going to be life insurance focused. So this might apply to you, but we're also going to be talking about vice versa. If you have a life insurance book, maybe some of those will lead into annuities. If you have an annuity book, maybe some of those are going to lead into life insurance. And what's their relationship, how they work together. And that's going to be probably a two-parter as we talk about general cases and then dive into strategy comparisons of life insurance retirement and annuity retirement and how those can complement each other instead of pitting off against each other. So with that, that's your 24 minutes today. Hope you like this little different one about longevity. If you have any questions, throw it in the Q&A section. I'm going to hang out for a little bit longer. And with that, I'll see you.